General networking, network fundamentals, setting up a small office home office router, part 2. We went through all basic settings in the previous video. Now we will get deeper, see what's available. There will be some dedicated videos to more advanced features like port security, dynamic DNS. Please feel free to check them. It is a very good idea to find a document like that. You can Google, you'll find it for every single router. As you can see, 68 pages, a great way to learn. When you scroll down, let's say you're interested in wireless. Okay, what is this WPA all about? Here, they're not only going to tell you what that is, how to set it up, they will tell you what that is. Is it a good idea to keep it? I'm pretty sure when you read about WEP, they should mention don't use it. Let's see if that's the case. WPS. Let's just search for it. WEP. Here we go. Let's see if they mention. Well, they don't use it. We have a dedicated video to wireless. Don't use WPA. WEP. Okay, let's go back to our D-Link DSL 2680. We'll go through more advanced settings. I'll show you what's available, what you can do. Most routers will welcome us with a dashboard. I will show you some better and new routers later on. This one will allow you to set up your internet connection first. You can run a wizard. It's not a good idea. You don't need that. If you buy a router in the UK, in most cases it arrives pre-configured for your ISPs. If you buy a router in the USA, it arrives for your sensor. However, sometimes you will have to tweak a few options. You have to check that with your ISP. They will specify, okay, we use PPPoE, we use PPPoA. This is how your ISP decided to deliver, what protocols they use, what standards they deployed. You can go and ask what you need to connect to the network. Make sure that you check with your ISP if it is okay to replace the router. I've seen that in the past. Some ISPs were not happy when you tried to replace the router. They didn't allow it. Check that before you buy a package. If it's ADSL, VDSL, in most cases you will need a username and password. They will email it to you, they will mail it to you. You will find that on the router, it all depends, you need a username and password in most cases. Then all these settings should be pre-configured by D-Link, Linksys, TP-Link. If you bought that in the UK, it should be okay for this country. Of course, if you decide to move it somewhere else, then again these settings can be provided by your ISP. Everything that you see here. The next thing you should look at is LAN. That's your internet connection, now your LAN settings. You can change your router's IP address. Now it is 254, as you can see, that's what we use to connect. If you don't like this IP address, go and specify something else. Remember, you will lose the connection to this router. You will have to type a new IP address here. Make sure you don't make a mistake, because if you make a mistake, the only way to fix it is to use the reset button. Then DHCP server, it means that your PCs, your computers will get a dynamic IP address from this router. It is enabled by default on almost all small office home office routers, and here is a range. I really like the way they did that. is from 100 to 120. In most cases, you don't need more than that. That's absolutely fine for security reasons. It is a good idea to do that. And then lease time. This IP address is going to be valid for X number of days. Here it's in seconds. If you have an existing DHCP server in your network, for instance, do you remember our discussion when I told you you could use a router as an access point? If that's the case, you should disable it. You should disable this DHCP server because your main router will be a DHCP server. We'll go back to wireless in a moment. Then status. All routers will have it. Here you can see, in most cases it is used to check your internet connection. It will tell you if it's up, what IP address you have received, and so on. I will connect one of my Linksys routers later on and you will see that in action. Here is something you can check. If you see not available, down, not connected, it's not a good sign. Advanced. We have two really interesting options here. It's port forwarding and dynamic DNS. You'll find dedicated videos to both features. Now is just to tell you what we can do with it. Port forwarding allows you to open some ports on your router if you want to connect to your internal devices from the outside world. Examples: IP cameras. If you want to manage a switch, if you have a NAS server and you want to connect to it from the internet, you have to open some ports. Dynamic DNS, that is here under DNS settings, it should be here. In most cases you will get a dynamic IP address from your ISP. It means it changes. It does change. Every day, every week, every month, it all depends. If you want to connect to your router, you don't know what the IP address is. You can use dynamic DNS providers and have a host name instead of an IP address. As you can see, sometimes here it will be pre-configured for some D-Link they will offer a lot of vendors will allow you to use their service. I do not recommend that. Please check my dynamic DNS service. I'll tell you that later on. Here it is DIN DNS. And of course you can specify whatever you want here. I like no IP. That's a very good service that you can use. Let's go back to here. When I'm here, I will show you firewall. In most cases, it's a pretty simple solution. Firewall, it means that nobody can connect to your internal network. It will protect your router against, for instance, denial of service attack. If someone wants to crash your router as well. A very basic firewall, as you can see, is just enable. However, this router will allow you to create some rules. I think it's here, isn't it? Yes. Here you can, by default, all outgoing traffic is allowed. It means that if you want to browse the internet, everything is allowed. If you want to create a rule like that, we call it an access list in more advanced devices, you can do it here. That's a pretty advanced feature that you will not find on all devices, and it's nice to have. The same applies to VLANs. It's something that you will not find on all devices. It's nice that D-Link decided to include that. Remote management is something that will allow you to manage your router from the outside world. If you want to HTTP to it, it means you can browse to it. You can even telnet to it. But take a look, from 1 it's all disabled. If you want to connect to it from the outside world, you should really use HTTPS, which, as you can see, is not an option here. In that case, I would not allow it. HTTP is clear text, and that includes your passwords. It's not a good idea. If you really have to use that, yeah, do it. You just click here and then, oh, I can't even do that, can I? Allow all, yeah, now I can do that. Yeah, HTTP is not secure, you should not really use that. A lot of routers will allow you to use HTTPS, and that is a better option. Let's go to wireless now. We saw some basic options here when we discussed everything in the first video. Here, how you change your password. What I want to show you is some settings will be in advanced here in this tab, even though it should be under wireless. What I want to show you is WPS. Make sure you disable it. WPS is not secure. I think it happened in 2011. They found a lot of issues with this protocol. WPS, it's an easy way for your wireless devices to connect. Instead of putting a password, you can press a button, put a PIN number, things like that. It's not secure. Make sure that you disable it. Do not use it. Google it if you're more interested. It is not secure. The last thing is network tools. It's something that you can use if you want to. That's not what I wanted. Diagnostics, yep. It's something that you can use to troubleshoot your connections, and it all depends how it was implemented by D-Link or Linksys. Take a look here. It's a wizard. It will just tell you, okay, I am going to test this, test that. A lot of routers will allow you to do ping, traceroute, NSLookup, more advanced tools. Of course, you can run everything from your PC. It is a nice thing to have on your router. That's all I wanted to show you in this video. That was setting up a small office home office router part 2. I showed you some more advanced tools. Again, I encourage you to download a document like that from the internet. Just Google your router and you will find a nice PDF file explaining you what can be achieved on your device. Thank you very much.